What distributions are the most popular currently? There's really a great number of distributions, so there's no point to enumerating them all. Their summed up number reaches a few hundreds. This is similar to a situation where we'd have several hundred distributions of Windows available. Therefore, we'll discuss only the most important ones. There are commercial and non-commercial distributions available. The most famous non-commercial distribution is the Debian. It puts emphasis on extensive testing of the software that's published in its packages. Debian is unfortunately a system that often delivers packages in their older versions. Because of this, there's a chance that some things will not work as we expect. The main application of this distribution is server solutions. It can be installed on users' computers, though it's not very comfortable for everyday use. This distribution doesn't have GUI templates or behavior that would be friendly to a novice user. This system simply provides sets of software that we can rely on to work correctly, stably, and that will cooperate with each other. It doesn't need to be pretty and colorful. Debian often requires the user to configure certain parameters, things according to his or her wishes. Debian is a good distribution, but it wasn't designed for home use. Unless someone really needs a stable solution, then they can safely choose Debian. A very cool feature of Debian is that the upgrades between versions of the system, for instance from version 5 to version 6, are simple and do not require reinstalling the entire operating system. Some distribution unfortunately sometimes requires reinstallation, as is the case with Windows, where if you update it, for example, from Windows Vista to Windows 7, or later to Windows 8, usually the whole system is reinstalled, because the update actually does more harm than good. For Debian, these updates are painless and do not require any disk formats, reinstallations, or changing settings. Everything happens automatically. It's very convenient, especially for server units. For home systems also, but it's not that important. Debian has a very long release cycle. As the main policy of its creator is to provide extensively tested solutions, the time between a release and the next one can get very long, making us wait for updated solutions. Sometimes that may even be years or longer. The most popular distribution is Ubuntu. It's a distribution that aspires to be suitable for any user. It's supposed to be friendly, colorful, and very easy to install. However, sometimes it tends to be too innovative, and it adapts a lot of solutions. That might scare off a novice user. The simplest example is that in Ubuntu, by default, the Windows Close button is not on the right side as we're used to, but on the left. Theoretically, it's more convenient, more ergonomic. It's easier to move the cursor to the left. However, most novice users will be confused because of this. Ubuntu has one very negative feature. Namely, it does not conform to the standard solutions found in other Linux system packages. Some part of the more advanced configuration tools that are extensively used at some stage is handled differently by Ubuntu than in all other distributions. The ability to work with Ubuntu does not guarantee that we'll be able to navigate through other distributions with comparable ease. Additionally, Ubuntu being nice and colorful, unfortunately is not always compatible with other solutions. Fedora is probably the most popular distribution for an average user. The project is funded by Red Hat. It's kind of a testing ground for the releases of their commercial distribution, the Red Hat Enterprise Studio. This solution has very serious advantages. It's a distribution that has been available in the market for some time. It's refined, versatile, and it has a stable source of funding. So there's no high risk that the distribution is going to disappear, and we'll have to get used to a different solution all of a sudden. Its main graphical user environment is GNOME. After installation, we'll look at the major desktop environments. You'll be able to see what the differences are between them. Fedora has nothing special about it, in the sense that there are no strange custom solutions. The release cycle is about half a year long, so we get new updated software relatively fast. Fedora is also in line with the current trends in the hardware market. It has great support for various types of equipment, even the latest. So it's a good distribution on which you can start your adventure with Linux. Another distribution that's suitable for novice users is the OpenSUSE distribution. A special feature of this distribution is that it does not favor any particular utility for the presentation of the graphical user interface. All other distributions have their favorite desktop environment. Around these environments, the developer creates tools, interesting panels, administrative tools, and things like that. In the case of OpenSUSE, the choice of the graphical environment is left to the end users. The same functionalities are implemented for environments based on KDE, GNOME, or any other. OpenSUSE has a very interesting administrative tool called YAST, which can be compared to the control panel in Windows. From one place, the user can access a set of administrative tools used in all system maintenance activities. OpenSUSE is a distribution sponsored by AttachMate, formerly called Novell. Just as Fedora is a testing ground for Red Hat Enterprise, OpenSUSE is a testing ground for another commercial system, the SUSE Enterprise. The next two distributions are intended for very advanced users. These are Gentoo and Slackware. These distributions put emphasis on manual configuration of the system. When using these distributions, we often need to compile the software on our own. Especially in the case of Gentoo, whose main idea is that the system has to be efficient and hardware adaptable. That means that you must manually compile any application when you install it. It's true that large programs are available in pre-built versions, but using them is a little at odds with the whole idea of the system, and simply misses the point, which is to have a system perfectly suited to our computer, super efficient, using very little resources, and then we install software from a binary package, which by its nature has to be very general and inefficient. And we really lose all the performance gained. Unfortunately, compiling large packages can take a very long time. A few years ago, when I was using Gentoo, I decided to compile an OpenOffice package version 1. On my laptop, it took 3.5 days of continuous operation. This is not a solution for users who just want to quickly test or check something. I also remember a situation when I got a spreadsheet in some format from a friend from college, and I could not open it until after 3.5 hours. I managed to compile just the program my friend used. This system is perfect for people who want to learn about the system from inside. After my experience with Gentoo, I used this system for over 2 years. I know what's going on in Linux. I know how the system works, because I had to configure a lot of things myself. Gentoo is perfect as a system for your alternative or spare computer, a system for educational purposes, or a system to inspect how Linux works on the inside. It includes most of the software, and I recommend it to people who really want to dive into the system. Though I suggested the following order of learning. At the beginning, use Fedora or OpenSUSE. Then some Debian. And finally, just go to Gentoo. So then you'll have a sense of what you can do in the system. Slackware is a little different. It also requires manual configuration and compiling software packages and other advanced things. Slackware is developed in a rather unique way. It's created by one person, by a man who develops and modifies Linux for his own use. And since it's ready and running, he releases for the general publicity as well. The main advantage of this solution is that everything that has been configured by the creator of this system really works. If you want to change something, for example, we want different keyboard shortcuts or a different graphical environment, it involves a lot of work and you have to have good knowledge of the system. Novice users had better stay away from Gentoo and Slackware because they can easily become estranged from Linux. I recommend at least a year or two of working experience in Linux to get some expertise, become familiar with the basic commands, and learn how to build software, what needs to be set for the compilation to complete successfully. Only after gaining such experience, you can use these solutions. Despite all I said here, these distributions certainly have a lot of advantages. Since we compile this system, in fact, compilation is done separately for each installation, we can prepare the system for virtually any hardware. Systems like Gentoo and Slackware are ideal for creating base distributions, which could be used, for example, to run a router, or as a system for any portable console. These systems have their use, but are not intended for beginners. CentOS, in turn, is a distribution designed for server applications. It's non-commercial and free, although this system can only be used on a server machine. The software available for this system are programs, which are largely focused on server applications, such as file sharing, web serving, etc. Generally, they're not useful on home machines. Basic operations we would need are not supported by such software. It's as if we installed Windows 2008 Server on a home PC, and then we expect that it would support all the media and stuff like that. It just won't happen.